Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay. All right.
It's Titania Jordan.
Hi everyone, I'm Titania with Connect, and this is Chris Tuff. Chris kind of a big deal, like really kind of a big deal. And it's fun because we're the same age. We actually grew up in Atlanta around the same time. Outkast, Beastie Boys.
Parties in my parents' basement.
Yep, OK Cafe, Chick-fil-A, like all that jazz. And Chris has had a pretty exciting trajectory since the good old days.
Yeah.
So you went to Lovett. You went to Vanderbilt. What happened after Vanderbilt? Because all of a sudden it was like, whoa, Chris Tuff is everywhere, he's blowing up. So like, how did you blow up?
So after graduating, I couldn't find a job. Anyway, I had 64 job interviews.
Oh my gosh.
My dad actually sent me to a career psychologist, was like, Christopher, he's British, in a really bad British accent of mine. It's time, get back. And I was choosing actually between being an English teacher at Lovett and the college counselor, which sounded pretty ideal to me, or this new digital advertising thing. And it was right when Moxie was starting out. And the career psychologist basically was like, you can teach later in life, go into this advertising thing. And so I was I think I was the 13th or so employee at Moxie. And there was a crew of us that kind of grew up together there. And I went from department to department to department. I was a copywriter. I went to the creative circus for a couple of years. Oh. I was in the media side. And then it actually came down to Chris Pinto and Joel Lunenfeld, really the two founders, came to me and said, Chris, there's this new thing out there around viral videos. And if you can get your own viral video of, let's just say, I don't know what, Chris, over 1 million views, we'll give you your own department around trend spotting. And this was right before YouTube. So I'm sure you remember or not, but I filmed my engagement.
I remember that.
And then I put it on ChristopherTuff.com. I really did it with the intention of our family seeing it.
Yeah.
But then I thought 2 birds with 1 stone and sent it to them and a few others. And by the end of the week of posting it, I think we had like 7 million views. And this was before YouTube, and the server guy was like, Mr. Tuff, you're getting a lot of hits.
That is amazing.
And my wife's just, shaking her head in embarrassment. And then Good Morning America flew down and did like a segment on us. And then ultimately, I branded our wedding doublemintwedding.com because we're both identical twins.
I remember that too.
And then we got our picture on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and Chris and Joel were like, okay, Chris, I think you succeeded in that. Now follow your passion of kind of combining this media and this emerging world of social, and just kind of fell into it. So it was kind of luck, I guess.
Yeah, you forged your own path.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so awesome. So I have a confession to make, and I actually didn't remember this until you impersonated your dad. So in 8th grade, I dated Cameron Martin. Yeah. Hey, Cameron. Solid dude. Love that guy. He was like the love of my life when I was 13. Like, big deal.
You were the love of his as well, FYI.
Aww. And so I think he was staying at your house, and I wanted to talk to him, but I froze. So I called, and your dad answered. Your dad was like, who is this? And I was like, Whitney Horton. It's Whitney Horton. Not knowing that y'all were like BFF. And he was like, this is not Whitney Horton. I was like, click.
That's hilarious.
So I never told you that. And,
that's hilarious.
That happened. So sorry, Whitney, for impersonating you. Sorry, Cameron, that I didn't have the cojones to just talk to you. But anyway, you're happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy.
And Whitney went from YouTube and is now at Snapchat, heading up their restaurant vertical, which is hilarious.
And she was at Google, right?
Yeah, doing their YouTube stuff.
Yeah,
so I guess we'll have to snap something to her to talk about this.
Okay, great. Yeah, Whitney, you're kind of a big deal too. So way to go. Like, class of 99 is killing it. All right, so Moxie, amazing. Viral video, lots of hits, forge your own career path. What happened next?
So right around 2005, 2006, we were the first ones to really work with Facebook. And with Moxie comes Verizon, which has lots of dollars. So it was around that time that things were starting to really begin to niche out in terms of social and these emerging channels. At the same time, I think I got my entrepreneurial itch. So while kind of building a little bit of a solid foundation and I think a niched out positioning within the marketplace, I also started a side hustle of what was called Sneaky Sunday, which some may remember.
I remember that.
The website to kind of check out for the insider's guide to any city. And it was day specific, so obviously back then, the best single seen on a Tuesday in Atlanta or in Nashville was very different than a Wednesday or Thursday, and we'd give you that insider perspective as well as video. And I think we were ahead of our time, and people still stop us and say, "What? We wish you still had the Sneaky Sunday thing."
I know, and you say us. Who was involved in that project with you?
So it was myself. Dean Rowland from Collective Soul. You got to have a rock star in the mix.
Yeah.
And then two of my other best friends, Paul Broft and Carrie Franklin, who both from that ended up getting into the tech world. At the time, I think they both had very conservative jobs. And then two of our friends, Jason and John from Moxie. So it was a motley crew. But I say it was a really good way to learn how to build a business. And if it wasn't for 2008 and everything that happened with the financial meltdown there, I think we'd be telling a different story. But I mean, as I encourage a lot of people to find their own route, there's no better way of learning than that applied piece of the failing. It was a very expensive MBA, and MBAs were pretty expensive. But then, it was right around that time that I met my wife, and she and I had a long discussion saying, all right, it's time to get health insurance again. And I met a guy, David Rollo. We were on a panel together, and who's now one of my best friends as well. And there's a theme here. Everyone I work with becomes my best friend.
It's a good thing.
But so he started talking to me about 22 Squared, and I was so relieved to have an agency that was still independent, but yet also was full service. And at the time, they weren't doing that much in the space, so I knew I could have a big impact on them. And so it kind of came in this very ambiguous job title, and they sat me in the corner. They didn't really know what to do with me. I was helping Dean and the Collective Soul guys with their band at the time, scooting over to like the W, doing their music video on the helipad there.
Nice.
And then, it was with, I think, Buffalo Wild Wings and Publix and some of our other clients that I began to really build out a core team at the agency. Almost as an incubator that slowly moved into what became the backbone of the agency. Everything that we do is social, and everything. What is social is digital. What is digital is social, and it was always with the intention of that disintegration that we built it, and that's kind of what happened.
So your official title now is?
Director of Partnerships and Content Marketing.
Okay.
So ambiguous enough that it allows for the entrepreneurial piece and always changing, which I think is required in today's day and age.
Oh yeah.
Especially an agency.
Oh yeah. Talk about some of the projects you're working on and what's involved with them now in this new agent space.
I mean, I think there's this huge dilemma around content. One, what is content in today's day and age? And then, really tackling how much content is the right amount of content. And you see these headlines that P&G, for example, they're pulling all of their Facebook dollars because they don't feel like this micro-targeting within the content world is working. Yet no one's questioning the type of creative they're throwing into the space. And it just kills me because it is ultimately, we need to take a step back and just take a look at ourselves as humans and take a day of your life. And the more we can tell that story about what's changed. I mean, I was telling someone yesterday, a client, my day's changed in the last 4 months. I mean, my new routine is I'll rock I have 2 daughters. We spend long time, probably too long, putting them down to bed and kind of winding down.
I get it.
You know how it is.
I get it.
And after that, like the first thing I do is sit on the couch, take a deep breath. And it's changed because before I would like probably turn on the TV and then I'd get out my laptop and also be on my phone and there'd be some back and forth. I'd see some of the longer form stuff, like stuff like this that you know, I'd take some time to watch while multitasking. But like now, the first thing I do is I go to Instagram stories and then I go to Snapchat. I get through all of those and then I go through some of the longer form stuff. And usually by the time that's done, I look up and either the TV's been on pause or we haven't even turned it on. And it's like, that's the type, like that is a
reality.
Big, and that's a big change. And now what is the role of brands and how can agencies, how brands break through in a way that we're actually developing a real connection? And it's not this idea of dynamic creative, which is what P&G is essentially retracting from. I think it's an oxymoron because to be contextually relevant to all these different people is very difficult. But to be relevant to a new mom and even a new dad or someone who is single, those are 3 very different ways in which we need to be engaging with these people.
Right.
And people forget, I think, that brands are built on relationships and stories.
Yes.
And there's never been a more opportunistic time than now, yet people don't know how to capitalize on that. And that's where we come in. That's where we're helping to, I think, bridge those gaps and really, I think, push and test and test to a place where we can tell what's truly selling product and what's not, even if it is more of an awareness or an engagement play.
And you're a super early adopter, right? So while you're recognizing that trend of not even having the TV on and gravitating towards stories first, it might be 6 months to a year before the general market hits that behavior.
Sure.
So how do you go about separating your early adopter behavior from consumer trends? And I guess it's good, right? Because you're able to prep and adapt for it. But what I found being in the world of startups is that I am not the user. I can't build for myself. I have to build for the user. So how do you translate that to your clients and their users?
I mean, I think it's always asking questions, and I think it's having the right focus groups. And people forget that focus groups live all around us at all points of the day.
Yeah.
And I think it annoys my wife when I meet a younger adolescent and all I want to talk about is their social media usage.
I know, it's so much fun.
It's like so. I think it's even with that, you can get a good glimpse as to what's happening. I find it astounding. I'll speak in front of college students every once in a while, and I'll ask them. I'll start with the question just out of curiosity. What is your platform of choice? Where are you going to share on the fly?
Yeah.
And I've been astounded at how many people recently have been saying Instagram over Snapchat.
Yeah.
And you can almost feel this groundswell happening just from that one question. But I mean, that's the very on a whim. How do you keep up with everything? I mean, I think it takes an army to everyone be immersed in it. But there's so much. Just we've got to be hypothesizing constantly. And I say there are puppeteers and there are puppets. And there are nearly enough puppeteers, and I mean, no offense to Gary Vee, but actually all offense to Gary Vee. Like, don't follow what just Gary Vee has to say.
Right.
And let's come up with our own things, whether it's right or wrong. Let's at least come up with our own thinking for our clients, and let's test those things, because I think it's through that a lot more of us can be pushing versus just following what all these other guys are saying.
So glad you said that.
So.
That needed to be said. Yeah, whenever I have a babysitter or an intern from high school come, I'm like, tell me everything. What are you doing? What is your world like? Like, they're like, chill out, dude.
The babysitter's a really good one.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're like, you're freaking me out. Don't you need to get to dinner? And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm good.
But well, actually, one of the best things we have a lot of closed Facebook groups that we kind of use is we'll just send out questions, whether it be for a client specifically around a promotion or something that we have coming up, or something, or just a general kind of way of sharing and getting information. We find it actually one of the best ways of getting a lot of that qualitative piece.
Absolutely. So, you know, in 2008, when you were with Sneaky Sunday, I was with Star 94, economy had tanked. I was a straight commission salesperson, so I was like, time to start a family.
Yeah.
And so while I was going through the like being a new mom and that whole just, you know, what comes with that, I was watching you on social go do really awesome fun things, like go to Facebook headquarters. I was geeking out when you checked into Facebook for the first time. I was like, oh snap, like what was that like?
A funny story. It was one of the best practical jokes that anyone's ever done. It was David Rollo, and it was our first time at Facebook. And I, like you, I mean, you would expect, the geek in me was, especially after working with these guys for so long and going to the mothership and being a part of that. Aww. Also pretty early.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those moments. And the night before, we had had a pretty late night, and unbeknownst to me, Rollo had taken my phone. And so here we were with clients in the middle of a very new Menlo Park Facebook campus. And I someone was calling me, and I looked down, and it was Mark Zuckerberg. And so I start kind of freaking out. And I see Rollo in the corner just laughing, and he had just reprogrammed his name in my phone to be Mark Zuckerberg. And so that was one of two jokes. And we'd met tons of people while we were out there. And we were at San Francisco airport, and I was still a little bit mad about the excitement that happened with his name in my phone, being Mark Zuckerberg. And I get a call from Joel, actually, who is head of strategy at Twitter, and my old boss. And he said, Chris, I just want to let you know that you're coming up in your email with your thank you as Mr. Lover Lover. And so he had changed my email contact to be Mr. Lover Lover. So every single person that I met while out in San Francisco, I came up as Mr. Lover Lover.
You know what?
And it's just the best. But I haven't changed Rollo's name back from Mark Zuckerberg. And I'll be at important business meetings, lunches, or dinners, and Mark Zuckerberg will come up on my caller ID, and I'll just send it to voicemail, and it's like the best power move ever. Because they don't know that it's actually just Rollo.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to change my mom's name to Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Be a total boss.
Yeah. But you know, it was really exciting, obviously, being there way early in the game, and there weren't that many of us back then. And you know, there's really 20 of us that were specialists in Facebook. It was the first time Fast Company did an article, and we had a Facebook group that we shared all of our secrets in. And it was kind of like this, like Moxie was, like this graduating class of us that actually we still do, some of us still do business together today. And how we met, and Jason Beckerman being one of them, who started Unified, or who we use for our social buying. So it's wild.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love your story. How do you structure your day? You have 2 small children, a beautiful wife, live in Atlanta. You know, you run.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you eat healthy. Got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of people to meet. What's your day like?
It's surprisingly more balanced, I think, than most people realize. I'll usually start my day with a run or fast twitch at the Forum, which is just a beast.
What time do you wake up?
Well, on Forum days, it's 5, and then regular days, 6:15. And then, you know, it's hanging out with the kids, but getting an early start, and then going to work. But I try to have enough structure that I'm having the touch points I need to have, but enough freedom in between. So the best piece of advice, actually Raj Chaudhary gave it to me, and he was like, make sure you block 50% of your day. And I don't know if I necessarily do that, but it's with that freedom that you're able to have the most successful and productive meetings, which usually happen in front of a whiteboard. Because it lets us hypothesize, it lets us restructure, it lets us push. But there's very few times in my day that I'm just like sitting by myself in my office or working on the computer. Most of it is, and what I try to impart on everyone, obviously you're gonna need your downtime, but I think in a world that revolves around instant message and text and email, I say to everyone, just walk. So I walk 3 miles in our offices, 3 miles a day, just going from person to person and really trying to connect. But that human piece, for someone that's life is kind of revolved around tech,
right.
I think there's this new almost sensitivity and requirement around these types of interactions.
Absolutely. You're like singing what I'm singing, for lack of a better term. Like, as much time as I am on every single social media network and liking and responding, like, I love that. Like, I get my jollies from that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's super overwhelming, and it can be a little bit too disconnected, and so I have to have this in person. I can't just go be at a desk 9 to 5, like knocking out stuff. Like, I need to talk to you, I need to talk to Madison and Mike, and what's your name again? Ian the intern, who's awesome, by the way. Like, I need to talk to all of you and get that that personal connection, because that's what we were meant to do as humans, is connect with people, like in real life.
Yeah.
Okay, so do your children have iPads? Do they
No,
play on them?
So I have a work iPad that they get very sparingly.
Yeah.
Like road trips.
Yeah.
But it's only for a short period of time. Like, there's no iPads or phones allowed at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And that's it's a about 5-month-old new routine for me, but I turn off my devices when I get home, and I'm not back on them until later after the kids are in bed.
That's great. Are you happy about that decision?
Oh, it's like the best. Actually, and I'm surprised, I don't know if there's a Kickstarter for it yet, but I think we should create lockers where you can just put it and it charges, like the ones that you find in some of the retail environments, and it just locks it for a period of time. I think that would be a good start. I mean, someone locally do it. I'll help fund it with a little bit of seed investment if anyone's up for it. But I think honestly, like, that's almost like what's required today.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Because it stimulates that part of your brain, the serotonin and the dopamine, that quick fix. Like, struggle is real. Mine is right here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need it here. I think my biggest fear is because I have an 8-year-old. Like, I'm always like, I want to know if something happens. You know, like, I want to. It would kill me if this was over there and I didn't know for an hour, or even 20 minutes or 5 minutes. So I think that's where my addiction comes in for whatever reason.
Like, both my daughters will have trackers on them.
Yeah.
And I will track everywhere they go. Like, Finley Marlin, you don't stand a chance. And I try. That's how I get in touch with. I think she knows this, but she's not very good at answering her phone, so I just track where her iPhone is with Find My iPhone app. Brilliant strategy if anyone's looking for if you have anxieties around where your spouse might be, and not the insecure ones for me.
Yeah, but just like, why aren't they picking
up? It's more of
like,
where is she? She's in line at Starbucks.
Yeah. Cool. Grab something for me while
Use
you're there.
technology to your advantage. Creepy as it might be.
So you mentioned, throwing in a seed investment for the smartphone locker. Do you have a venture fund? Are you looking to support, or is it just kind of as you hear things and see things, you pour into them as you see fit?
So, actually, Steve Koonin at the Hawks gave me one of the most important lessons. When I asked him, I was like, and this was a year into him overseeing the Hawks, and I said, Steve, how have you done it? Like, what can I learn from you in terms of you've turned around a sports team that was in shambles a year ago? And he said, maniacal focus.
Yes.
And I try to apply that to as much of my life as possible, including who I am taking under my wing. And it's not like, and plus I private school in Atlanta is very expensive. It's not like I have all these funds to invest all over the place. So I try to support the local startups that I really believe in and that I feel are following this be a painkiller, not a vitamin. So,
yes.
Which is another piece of advice that I got. Like, don't solve for this, solve for this. It's similar to maniacal focus. So I'm involved. I've invested in the Atomized guys. So Chris Gummersall. I really believe in what they're building, and the product is really screaming fast.
What are you most excited about for the future?
For Atlanta, for everything, for
whatever comes to your brain.
I mean, I think I was talking to some other parents at my daughter's school. I think it's so easy to get into a mindset of a pessimistic, where's the world coming to? But yet, I have the exact opposite view, and I think there's never been a better, more opportunistic time in all of our lives. And if you look at the statistics, poverty is at an all-time low. It's really our biggest problem is we're all too fortunate, and we're all too blessed in everything we're doing. And they did a study on happiness, and the happiest countries in the world are ones that have had a war within the last 5 years.
Wow.
Because they actually understand how to appreciate things.
They have perspective.
Exactly. So I think once we begin to appreciate things a little bit more, I think the rate of disruption is only going to continue. And the companies that will thrive, not just survive, but thrive, are ones that embrace that. And you can do that without just being one of the disruptors themselves. And we're seeing it happen with some of the larger guys in town. Home Depot, I think, being a good example of some of their diversification and seeing the rewards for that. So I think it's nothing but opportunity, and it's just about how you look at it. I think what I tell everyone that works with me is find your passion, your strength, and then the need. And it's with that overlap that you find your sweet spot. And that'll change with as you go on. Just make sure that you're falling in it.
I love that.
And if you don't know what your passions are, you take What Motivates Me, buy it on Amazon. And then if you don't know what your strengths are, take Strength Finders 2.0. And these are just super simple quizzes. And through that, you start to see, all right, where's that overlap? And then, all right, what am I interested in? And then you kind of find that sweet spot. And honestly, it sounds super hard. It's amazing to me how few people follow that, because the rest will come. Don't worry about what your starting salary is going to be straight out of school.
It will suck.
With passion comes.
Just will.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And if it doesn't suck, you got to question why you're investment banking or whatever it is. There's a trade-off to that high salary. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's my biggest piece. I think it's a good time to be living, and especially in Atlanta, there's nothing but opportunity.
Where do you find your innovation or inspiration?
Two different pieces, but I think it's through conversation and constant questioning and reading. I think we all need to be, almost to a fault, obsessed with all things new. So all of my feeds are highly curated, so I can be efficient in the way that I take in the information around me, whether it be the latest Snapchat changes to what's happening in terms of how Facebook's diversifying in VR, or Apple. So I think it's through a little bit of an obsession, but luckily that falls in my strength and passion, so it's good, and there's a need for it.
Yeah.
And then, I think it's one of the best things I was forced to do with our executive coach at the agency was to come up with my purpose. And my purpose is to inspire and connect. And it's actually changed a little bit, and it's more to catalyze and connect. But the connection is more on a personal basis versus just trying to have people meet. So that's so I think it's nice to evolve your purpose to find that.
Well, I love that. And you're not the same person at 20 as you are at 30 and 40.
Yeah.
Certainly not the same person I was at 18.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things change, your purposes change.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do a quick fire round. I don't know what I'm even doing here. I'm just gonna, I don't know, just say stuff, and then we'll see what happens, right?
Cool.
Favorite song of the moment?
It's nothing special. It's definitely one of the Band of Horses off of their new album. Why Am I Okay? One of those that I just have it kind of on repeat.
It's fine. It's great. I'm into Bruno Mars. Just gonna put
So
that out
are my
there.
daughters.
Yeah. You're smart.
That wasn't a dig on you. Though.
I was like, oh. It's good stuff. It's fine.
That's how hip they are.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm also into Migos. It's, we'll talk about that later. You were there. Favorite place to eat?
Geo's for like just on the go, and then for impressing people out of town, it's always Umi. Always Umi. Because people have no idea just the caliber of restaurants that we have here. And I mean, we're huge fans of Fort Fry as well and support them, but Fashid always tends to get me in when I have that person that I need to impress from LA or New York, and thanks Fashid. And it's Umi is definitely my go-to.
Spot on. Do you eat breakfast?
I do.
What do you eat?
These Amazon, you can get these Go Lean protein bars that are like, it took a little bit of time to get used to, but like that's and I just take one on the go, and then LaCroix.
Right?
They go hand in hand.
Right?
I don't know how do you pronounce it?
Okay, so I have a friend who grew up in France and says it's La Croix.
LaCroix is how I
But it's
go.
also like St. Croix, and then, so what do you do with that?
I just roll with LaCroix. It sounds fancier.
Sounds good.
Pinky's out.
Yeah.
LaCroix. Yes.
Lunch?
Lunch? Tamarind seed is always my jam because it's right across the way from me. And then public subs, obviously. Like,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Duh.
Those are probably my two go-tos.
So you don't avoid bread?
No.
Yeah, that's good.
No, none of
bread
that.
is so good.
None of that
It's your
ridiculous
lips.
stuff.
So good.
Yes.
What about dinner?
So I mean, big green egg. My wife and I, we're big support, which is, they're not too far out of the city. Actually, I sent Mark Zuckerberg a big green egg, and he now cooks on it, which is kind of, that's a long story.
David Rollo or Mark Zuckerberg?
Mark Zuckerberg. But the big green egg guys are awesome, and it is, I love just taking a deep breath at the end of the day and cooking whatever it is, whether it be wings or steaks or whatever. That's my go-to, I think, dinner creation piece.
So good. It's like an art and a passion.
It is.
When you get involved with the big green egg. It's a thing. I get it.
It is.
Working out. What do you do to keep your body in shape for running? Because it's very hard on your body.
So my wife finally succeeded in getting me to go to these fast twitch classes at the Forum, which is, there's one in Ponce and then one at Lenox. And she thinks it's funny, but I know it's a successful workout when I'll tell her, especially if we're doing it on the weekend and someone was watching the kids, I'm like, I'm seeing stars, I think I'm gonna pass out, I don't know what's happening. She thinks that's funny because she's in ridiculous shape and I'm not. And and it's a bit amazing doing that while running, how much faster you get. So yeah, fast twitch has been amazing.
That's awesome. When I started doing core strength training and not running as much, actually got better at running, endurance and everything, and breathing even. It was great. I should start doing that again.
Yeah, there you go. Class pass.
Yeah, okay, so I'll do that. Are you a coffee person?
I am.
Do you make it at home? You go get it?
So Brash is my wife. She's not very particular about much in life, but coffee is one of those. And so it's usually a toss-up between Brash, Octane, and Chattahoochee. But Brash, I think, is my favorite. And their Nitro on tap is the best in town for sure.
Favorite vacation spot?
Necker Island, British Virgin Islands, is the same place that I'd like to be right now, I'd have to say. I mean, and not necessarily a vacation spot, but the North Sound all through the British Virgin Islands is, I think, a very special place. And weirdly, an allure for a lot of the tech startups, as Branson continues to convince more people to buy islands next to him, including Sergey Brin, of the most recent, who just bought Mosquito Island next to him. But,
I don't think I'd want an island named Mosquito Island. Like, I hate mosquitoes,
yeah,
right?
Well, I'll take any island.
You know what? If you're giving them out,
yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But
British Virgin Islands. And actually Turks. Turks is especially 2.5 hours from Atlanta. You know, it's super easy to get to, and kiteboarding is one of my passion points. So it's really easy to kind of hop, skip, and a jump over there.
It's kind of scary, but intriguing to watch you do that. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It's fun. Actually, in the tech world, it's like the new golf.
Yeah.
People will connect over kiteboarding versus playing golf now, which I find much more appealing.
Way cooler.
Yeah.
So for everybody out there watching, I'm so big on how can I help you? What can we do for you? So if there is anything that you might need, what can we do? Like, how can we help you achieve anything you might be trying to get to this year?
I mean, honestly, I think it's spreading the word of, helping spread the word of what makes Atlanta special and unique. And I think letting us be leaders and not followers, both in life and for a city, I think is important. And you know, it's a special time for the city. And I mean, and it's funny because our agency is going through a very similar coming of age, if you will. Even though we've been around for 90-something years, it's like there's this special thing happening similar to Atlanta. So it's like it's happening all around me. But so I would just say, let's support our town. I don't think we get near enough credit for what we're doing and what we're building, and especially where we're going.
Right?
So yeah.
Awesome. I can get behind that. I think everybody out there can too. Chris Tuff, thank you so much for being here and for your time. You're awesome. Fist bump.
Awesome. Thanks. Oh yeah.